Thank you so much for coming back. I am going to show you how to bind off. Some people call it casting off. It's the same thing. This is right-handed. Basically, what we're going to do is knit 2 stitches. And then we're going to take the first stitch, pull it, first stitch, pull it over the right needle and drop it off. We'll knit 1 more stitch. Then we'll take the first stitch again on the needle, lift it off over the second stitch and drop off. And we continue along. We knit 1 more stitch. We go into the first stitch on the needle, lift it off over the second and drop it off. Knit 1 more stitch, lift off the first stitch over the second on the needle and drop it off. So let me show you. So you can see that's finishing our little piece here. I'll do a few more in front of you, and then what I want to do is actually bind off in purl, which is basically the same thing, but I want to show you anyway. I only have 15 stitches, so there we go. So you're basically creating an extra stitch and pulling the first one off all the way down the line. This is how we bind off and knit. You could also bind off in purl or bind off in pattern. Binding off in pattern, you'd follow the pattern. So like if you were knitting 2 stitches, purling 2 stitches, you'd be binding off in that pattern. So if you change in the middle of a row to bind off in purl, or you just want to bind off in purl, your yarn has to be in front, and then you would purl a stitch. Bring the first one off, just like you did with the others. So we would purl another stitch, go into that first loop, bring it off, purl, go into that stitch, and bring it off. Feels all fiddly when I'm looking through the viewfinder instead of my real hands. The video camera is blocking my hands. Makes it feel kind of awkward. So I'm pulling that first stitch off over the second stitch, purling again. So that would be knitting off purl-wise. I'll flip back to knit-wise again so you can see that. So I knit a new stitch, and the first one comes off, over, and drop it off. Knit another stitch, and drop it off. And you do that till you get to the very end. Okay, now when you finish, you will have 1 loop left, and let's see here. I didn't bring any scissors over. This is where I do my clay tutorials, so I'm going to use my blade there. But basically, with the very last loop, you would bring the yarn through and pull, and that's it. You're finished. So basically what you're looking at here, this is binding off in knit. The ridge faces you, and then this is binding off in purl. You could see the little purl ridge. If I turned it around, you see the front side, like if you were to bind off and knit. And then at the end we bound off and knit again. So there we go. So that one is done. Thank you so much for joining me. This is how you finish. So in the knitting tutorial, there should be a link to a scarf pattern. and it's basically garter stitch, so it's just knitting every single row. And if you follow the cast on and that knit stitch, you could go all the way till the very end, just do this little bind off, and you have a scarf. It also makes great washcloths too. If you wanted to do in a cotton, you can do just garter stitch, and that would be a good washcloth. I'll try to get a pattern up for that soon too. So there you are. If you want more tutorials, please go ahead and subscribe. Give me the thumbs up, and go ahead and leave comments that you do want to see more. My polymer clay channel has a lot more videos and has been a lot more active, so the more active we are, the more, the faster I'll get things up for you. Thanks so much for joining me again. Bye.